There have been some real heavy-hitting releases in the world of mobile gaming recently. With all of those different games coming out, it makes sense that gaming phones are still very much a thing. And while I brought a few different ways of playing games with me on a month-long trip abroad to the Philippines recently, I have to admit that I barely touched any of them. Yeah, I was on the RedMagic 7 Pro for most of that trip. As a smartphone, it's actually one of the most powerful ones out there. However, it was also the most convenient way for me to game in the downtime. So much so that my Nintendo Switch actually sat in my luggage for the entire time. Now, that's not a knock on the Switch, it's just an endorsement of how far mobile gaming has come, and how a brand like RedMagic is clearly supporting that. And yes, you can see I am traveling still, I'm in a hotel room. I may not be abroad, but I'm still on the go, and something like the RedMagic 7 Pro still remains as one of the easiest and least bulky ways for me to have some gaming while I'm out and about. So, it's Joshua Vergara. What's going on, everybody? Here are some thoughts on the RedMagic 7 Pro. Obviously, this video is all about the gaming experience, but let's not forget that this is still a smartphone. The stylings are, of course, gamer-friendly, even if I wasn't given the version that has the RGB lights around the fan, a little bit of a bummer. But still, it's pretty simple and minimal as far as gaming products go. What is particularly noticeable is the heft. The sides are nice and flat, so gripping the RedMagic 7 Pro tightly is natural because it actually is a little bit heavy. A lot of what is packed into this phone will be familiar for anyone that follows the high-end market. You get an AMOLED display that might be Full HD+, but it does have a 144Hz refresh rate. High amounts of RAM backing up the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 in here actually help the general everyday experience, more than just in the games, honestly. On a normal day, I was jumping in and out of Google Maps for navigation, Telegram for messaging, and the camera for occasional but definitely not fantastic picture-taking experiences. Of course, it's possible to multitask while gaming, and I certainly had YouTube on in the background mostly while I was playing. But remember that a gaming phone can get plenty of work done just fine as well as all of that play. Gaming phones tend to have other features that we just don't get in typical flagships anymore. Headphone jacks, mainly. I didn't really use it a whole lot though. The audio delay in Bluetooth headphones just doesn't really bother me because I'm a more casual gamer, but I can totally see how every millisecond will count when playing something like PUBG Mobile in high-level matches. And if there is something that I'll always appreciate, it's super fast charging. Even though the Pixel 6 Pro might have been my home base during the trip, I relied on the RedMagic 7 Pro as my backup device because it was way easier to top up. Which brings me to an important detail. Now, to my many viewers in the West, I know that mobile gaming tends to take a backseat to our consoles and our PCs and emerging portable solutions like the Steam Deck. But mobile gaming is a cash cow industry that makes the biggest impact in places like Asia. The Philippines, for example, doesn't have nearly as much access to game consoles. I mean, if you think it's hard to get a PS5 right now in LA, imagine what it's like in Manila. But as Isa mentioned to me, the daily culture of people in the Philippines doesn't necessarily facilitate console or PC gaming. The vast majority of people there don't even spend that much time at home, not enough to at least just sit down and play games on the couch anyway. Instead, this was a common sight as I jumped from city to island and back again, people sitting with their phones in the obvious landscape mode, playing any number of mobile titles that are available in the Google Play Store and thus available to pretty much anyone. Yes, for the record, I saw this most with Android phones because obviously there are a lot of affordable products in that particular segment of the market compared to Apple. And with varying degrees of success, every mobile game should pretty much work on any one of those devices. But that doesn't take away from the fact that a phone like the RedMagic 7 Pro would be a desirable smartphone for people dealing with all those various factors. The lack of access to consoles, the constant mobility, and despite the higher price of this Pro model, we also have to acknowledge that someone might want to spend money on just one device, the device that will take care of as many things as possible all in one place. Back to my personal experience though, as you heard me say in multiple mobile gaming videos in the past, smartphones are a wonderful way of playing classic games while enjoying all of the new titles that big game studios are starting to release on mobile. AAA in the context of mobile, mind you. Apex Legends Mobile was the main obsession that I had, and it was the perfect game to take advantage of the triggers on the RedMagic 7 Pro. Even if the touch-sensitive areas on the side are only really useful in-game, there's still an added unique layer that helps further separate this phone from others that have similar spec sheets. Indeed, the focus of a gaming phone is taking every spec we already hear about all the time and just adding support to them. Sure, you get the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 in here, but RedMagic threw in a dedicated core that takes some of the load off. Certain aspects like audio processing are handled by that custom processor, allowing the Snapdragon to focus on what's important, all the visual flair for gaming, for example. And let's not forget that cooling is always a problem when gaming on nearly any other phone, especially for long periods of time, and RedMagic just went ahead and made sure there was a fan in here. Now, while it might not actually mean that the phone is substantially cooler during intensive gameplay, let me bring it back to the context of the Philippines again, because it's a hot climate out there. Whether or not I was gaming, I was cognizant of having a fan in the phone that when things were getting a bit too warm, I could just turn it on and support the cooling process while leaving the phone idle. Not to mention that it's there to keep the temperatures controlled when fast charging, which is a nice touch. The other game that came out in that time that I was basically neglecting my Switch anyway was Diablo Immortal. Okay, say what you want about the, let's say, horrific monetization practices that Blizzard Activision kind of took with that game. I'm not so hardcore into mobile games that I'd feel the need to pull my credit card out much anyway. For me, it was just nice to come back to the Monk gameplay ultimately. But the game that I actually played the most was KOTOR. Yeah, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. Like many long games, I never did finish this one, even though I know all of the twists and turns in the storyline. And for a game that started on console, it's really nice to just make it portable. Just the comfort of playing a full-on game while lying down is reason enough to make me prefer mobile gaming most of the time. It wasn't the only classic game that I sunk hours into via the RedMagic 7 Pro. Emulation is as good as ever on Android smartphones, and a powerful rig like this is the perfect place to catch up with old titles. Def Jam Fight for New York is perfect for bite-sized game sessions backed by a controller like the recently released Razer Kishi 2. I didn't have it on that particular trip, but I am using it from now on because it's pretty damn great. Let me say something on the record for my fellow gamers. I actually have no allegiances when it comes to different gaming platforms. I mean, you've seen me in my videos wear PlayStation shirts, but my Xbox Series S is what sits on my home office desk, and I actually use that a little bit more than my PS5, which is waiting for attention at the big living room screen. I have PCs and laptops where I can play, but as you might have seen in a previous video, the Steam Deck has been one hell of a disruptor in that realm recently. And while there are titles on the Switch that I adore, there is just something so nice about further shrinking what is considered already pretty portable. And the smartphone is the ubiquitous, almost always available apparatus for getting stuff done, but also having a lot of fun. So why not have something specifically made for all of those purposes? The RedMagic 7 Pro is one of the more powerful phones you can get right now, and it's a good one for those who want just as much ROI as possible from one do-it-all product. The gaming phone is as big as ever, and I'm here, there, basically anywhere for and with it. For more on gaming phones like the RedMagic 7 Pro, make sure you subscribe to my channel and follow me all over social media. Sound off by hitting the like button and by getting into the comments. But from there, I'm going to go ahead and call it on this one. Thank you so much for watching. Please take care of yourselves and each other, and enjoy your tea, everybody.